Joe Ladapo, Surgeon General of Florida, announced this week, I believe, that Florida is going to end all mandates and requirements. Everything becomes optional. They can't require you to take a vaccine to go to school.
That's right.
And I would argue that this is way ahead of the curve, because what really you've just discovered in the last two stories here is that any requirement or mandate for a medical treatment or prevention is invalid on its face. Why? Because, well, as Robert Malone famously said at the Defeat the Mandates rally, if there is risk, there must be choice. You now know that any place you are told there is no risk, you cannot trust that. If there was risk, they wouldn't tell you. So if they're going to lie to you about whether or not there is risk, then you must assume there is risk to everything. There is certainly risk to you. There's a risk that they're lying and not telling you something they know that is materially important to you or maintaining your health. So that means there's no such thing, as far as I can tell, as a valid requirement or mandate. It couldn't possibly be true. You effectively have a natural right to govern your own health, and that means refusing anything and everything that you don't want to take. There's nothing governmentally that they could possibly know that would overwhelm that, because they burned that option at the point they decided they had a right to lie, because you don't know where they're lying.
Meanwhile, on the West Coast, the governors of California, Oregon, and Washington are busy conflating science with ideology. So this, can you see my screen? Amazing. Out of the governor's office, Kotek, in the governor of Oregon, we have September 3rd of this month of this year, Oregon, Washington, and California form Western Health Alliance. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek joins governors in California and Washington to help ensure the public has access and credible information for confidence in vaccine safety and efficacy. This is responsive to Ladapo doing what he is doing in Florida. Joint statement from Governors Newsom, Kotek, and Ferguson. That's governors of California, Oregon, and Washington, our fair state. Quote, President Donald Trump's mass firing of CDC doctors and scientists and his blatant politicization of the agency is a direct assault on the health and safety of the American people. The CDC has become a political tool that increasingly peddles ideology instead of science, ideology that will lead to severe health consequences. California, Oregon, and Washington will not allow the people of our states to be put at risk. So this is part of how the magic trick is done.
Yep.
Right? Is again, we're in Orwell land with regard to the use of language. They have literally swapped the word science and ideology. They, the governors of the West Coast, are pretending that they are standing for science. And they are actually they're asking for a CDC like the one that led us through COVID, in which you would have been better off, as we said over and over and over again, doing exactly the opposite of what the CDC said at every single step. I am not saying that everything that has come out of this administration with regard to public health policy has been clear or correct or entirely unpolitical. Of course not. But the idea that what we need is the CDC from 4 years ago under frickin' Walensky is unbelievable. That is actually being argued as a stand for science. These are people who don't know what science is, who wouldn't recognize it if it hit them in the head, and who are partly responsible for the disappearance of scientific thinking from the K-12 and higher ed school systems, precisely because they don't know what it is.
The last sentence that you read from there.
This is the statement from the governors of California, Oregon, and Washington. The CDC has become a political tool that increasingly peddles ideology instead of science, ideology that will lead to severe health consequences. California, Oregon, and Washington will not allow the people of our states to be put at risk.
Right. Now, will not allow the people of our states to be put at risk.
They mandated.
We will not allow the population of our states to be protected from risk.
Yes.
It is that. It's like pharma speaking as big brother, saying the inverse of the truth. But it sounds, if you hear it, they're standing, Trump's people are firing all of the good doctors from the CDC to bring in mystics or something, right? And it's upside down world.
Yep.
And, you know, here's the thing. It would be funny if your health wasn't resting on whether or not you can see through this nonsense.
Yep.
I'm also, just as a matter of happenstance, scroll back up to that logo.
Yeah.
That's the state of Oregon.
This is the state of Oregon's logo. Yep.
Look at that. Look when it was founded. 1859,
What a great year.
The year that everything happened. It's the year, among other things, that Charles Darwin published The Origin of Species. And the idea that the state of Oregon is going to contravene the most basic lesson of a Darwinian worldview, which is that you are a highly complex system that is built for an environment, and the more you disrupt it, the less healthy you're likely to be. It's pretty interesting. So
let me just read one more thing from this. We have statements from public health officers in each of the 3 states, and I could read all of them and dissect all of them, but let's just go with Hathi, the MD, an MD and MBA who is the director of the Oregon Health Authority, who said, quote, "Our communities deserve clear and transparent communication about vaccines. Communication grounded in science, not ideology. Vaccines are among the most powerful tools in modern medicine. They have indisputably saved millions of lives. But when guidance about their use becomes inconsistent or politicized, it undermines public trust at precisely the moment we need it most. That is why Oregon is committed, alongside California and Washington, to leading with science and delivering evidence-based recommendations that protect health, save lives, and restore confidence in our public health system." So I find particularly dangerous here the idea that we can't have inconsistent advice coming from public health authorities, and that what we need to do is restore confidence. How about we actually have a functional public health system? Because if we did, the confidence would follow. You can't build confidence on a broken system that is actually making people sick.
And you can't have a consistent system and claim that it's based on science, because the science you're going to get towards an understanding, there's going to be conflicting information because you're studying a complex system, and that means there's going to be noise. So the idea that they have decided that what they should be delivering is a consistent message means they are telling you they're going to lie. Yep. That's simply what they are exactly broadcasting it. It couldn't possibly be the case. There's going to be conflicting information pointing in multiple directions until you have a sufficient amount of evidence that the signal overwhelms the noise. And if they're not comfortable with that, what they're peddling has nothing to do with science.
Well, and what they're saying in part, and you hear this from people all over, like at every demographic, rich, poor, old, old, young, all the class, race, everything, right? But what you hear is, well, basically the people can't handle the truth.
Yeah.
People aren't smart enough. People are too stupid to deal with conflicting evidence, and therefore we have to clean it up for them. We have to put a nice gloss on it, probably better if it looks really pretty, and then we can feed it to them, and they'll take it because it's pretty and it tastes good like sugar. Yeah. And it's bullshit, actually. Like most people, despite what, yes, it's easier to grab a bag of chips than it is to, make yourself a steak. And the steak is going to make you feel better in the end. It's going to be delicious, but it takes more time and it's also more expensive. Most people know that as adults. And maybe those are bad examples because some people don't like one or the other of those things. But the fact is that our experience in the classroom for, 15 years at Evergreen and longer than that before when we were teaching assistants at the University of Michigan, was that people may come in the room thinking that they just want to be told what's on the test and get it over with because they're not really serious about being here and they're trying to get on with the rest of their lives, whatever the hell that might be. But actually, when challenged to think hard about something in a way that will reveal exciting new things about how it is that they might live their lives and who they are as human beings, almost everyone wants that. Almost everyone actually wants that. Not all the time, maybe. There's moments when you just want to, Netflix and chill, whatever. But almost everyone actually wants the challenge. And we're being assured by, in this case, the governors of the 3 West Coast states that you can't handle the truth, so we're going to protect you from it, but we're going to wrap it up in something called science and hope that you don't notice that that's not what science is.
All right, here's a challenge to the folks doing this, okay? Because they privately believe that they are engaged in a noble lie. The ones who are aware that what they're saying is not scientifically supported believe they are doing so for a good cause. But you're not. And here's how you can tell.
Yeah.
Let's say that there was some risk of autism from the MMR vaccine delivered early. That's what the apparent implication of what Kennedy revealed in the Senate is. And you felt that you had to not acknowledge that in order to make sure that enough people got that vaccine to do the greater good of protecting people from measles, mumps, and rubella. Well, then wouldn't you then spot it as your responsibility to take care of the autistic kids that were produced by your lie? Would that not be primary on your list of things that you had to take care of? Because you have decided that this cost is a cost that must be paid to do the greater good. But then it is a public cost. You're getting your MMR vaccine to protect us at a population level. Then the autistic kids who are created by that policy are the responsibility of whoever decided to deliver that lie. And if they were taking that responsibility seriously, they would be interested in questions like folate and its impact on alleviating symptoms of autism. They would be interested in all of the discoveries about the microbiome and the many parents who have discovered, by ignoring the wisdom of the public health apparatus, that actually they can have significant positive effects on their autistic kids by altering those microbiomes. So you would be obsessed with those things because it would reduce the cost that you have decided that we all have to pay. And yet you're not interested in doing those things, are you? So you're not a noble liar. You're just a liar. That's what you are.
It's analogous to how veterans of the Vietnam War were treated.
Absolutely. Yeah. We tell you some beautiful story to get you to sign up. You then come back with horrifying PTSD, and we don't understand that that's our responsibility. We put you there. You did your job from the perspective of the public. The public now has a responsibility to you.
And I mean, veterans in general, I think we often treat badly as a society, not everyone. But I think what happened in Vietnam was a particularly egregious and obvious example.
It was, but as you point out, it's by far not the only one. I mean, Gulf War syndrome and every other one of these things. It's we fail to take on the natural responsibility of
the choices that we make.
Yeah.
And, so Vietnam War was a mistake. Sending people there was a mistake. They went there.
It's not the fault of the people who went.
It's not the fault of the people who went.
Yeah.